Hello, everyone. Um, so today, I thought I will share a story with you. I really have been thinking a lot about leadership in this post-COVID world. Um, Literally in the last 3 months, basically this happened on December 31st, was the first case in China. So really think about it from then till today. Even if you take from the first case till today, it's only three and a half, it's only 3 months. And our life has changed in ways unimaginable. So, as a leader, I am also stumped with how do you deal with it and how do we reinvent ourselves to be leaders in this time of difficulty, not just because it's a lot of fun, but in times of difficulty. It's great to be a leader in times when you're growing, when you're having fun, when you have a wonderful time with your team, when you're putting great products, etc. But when you hit a wall, when things are not going right, how fast can you reinvent yourself? How can you find your transformative purpose? So I thought I'll share with you a little bit about my learnings in this and share with you what we are doing tomorrow, which is very exciting. So for this, I have to start with a story. This is one of my favorite stories. I've told this many times. If you heard it already, I'm sorry about it. This is a story of a couple who move to a new neighborhood. And every morning when they wake up, through their window, they see the neighbor's house, the neighbor lady drying the clothes on her terrace, and the clothes are always dirty. And the wife says to the husband, "What's wrong with this woman? Why is she washing clothes if they're dirty? Why is she drying the clothes if they're dirty? Can't she see they're dirty?" And whatever. And a week later, she wakes up one morning, husband's already making coffee downstairs and stuff, and she looks out the window and the clothes are clean. So she's superbly excited. She yells, "Honey, honey." He comes running upstairs. She says, "Have you noticed? Our neighbor washed her clothes today and they're all clean." And the husband looks at her and tells her, "Honey, I woke up early today and washed our windows." And the reason I love this story is that there are so many times we are saying, what's wrong with that person? What's wrong with the government? What's wrong with my company? What's wrong with my boss? What's wrong with the whole world? But the real adjustment has to be made by us, within us. So the real change has to come from within us. I see a lot of my family is joining, Subanaya, my Papa Kalu, and my neighbor Vimla, and a lot of people are joining. Welcome to all of you. So I'm sharing today about what's needed in this post-COVID world. What sort of leadership would we require? What sort of things would we need? So one of the things I realize is that there is a very thin line between the opportunity to prosper and the opportunity to perish. And actually, maybe I should say the opportunity to prosper and the option to perish. So we have to be very careful when something like this happens. Usually, the problems are much smaller. It could be that the economy is going down a little bit, or the stock market has changed a little bit, or something of that sort. But this is the first time all over the world things are changing. So we at INK have been thinking about how do we react in this. So one thing that's clear is that we are entering a digital age completely. Just as demonetization has accelerated digital payments in India, this catastrophe, this pandemic, has absolutely going to increase the way we are going to come together online. Just look at this interaction that we are having. And by the way, in your comments, please feel free to ask questions. It's an interactive session. Please feel free to ask me, and I'll answer those questions. So I'm able to connect with all of you without having to meet you. You're able to listen to me without having to come to a physical location where I will be talking. And there are other technologies we are using where there can be two-way communication by video. So there's all these things that are going to happen. So we are moving into a world where we need to interact with each other using digital technologies as effectively, as completely as we would if we just were to meet in person. And there's going to be a new type of innovation that's going to happen. And for this, we need to have very unusual types of connections to happen. So I will share with you 2 or 3 stories of what we have seen at INK, and share with you what we are going to be doing over the next week that would be of great interest to all of you. The first story is of someone who started a company called Koyo Labs. His name is Nitesh Jangir. He's an INK fellow. I'm going to tell you stories of 3 INK fellows, young people who have started things and how they can change, how they are going to change the world. And as an extension of it, what are we doing April 14th, 15th, 16th? That's going to bring you many such stories, many such opportunities. So Nitesh is always wanted to be a doctor, but became an engineer and worked, etc. But his interest in medicine has not gone away. Okay, so what he did is he and his friends started sitting in intensive care, emergency rooms, and started observing people, because he said, how can I bring my engineering talent to my interest in medicine, and what can I create at the intersection of these two? Now, talking about, changing your glasses, talking about cleaning our glasses, you have to reinvent yourself in a totally different way when you've been doing an engineering job and now you want to do something in medicine. So he said, what can I do? So they went and sat in emergency rooms, and they started observing what's happening, And all their products of Koyo Labs, it's COEO, Koyo Labs, come out of their observation of what they see happening. They first observed that little children, when they're brought to a local hospital, if it's an emergency, it's a serious situation, the local hospital says, hey, I can't help you with this. Take the child to such and such hospital. And to get to that such and such hospital may take 5 minutes or may take 5 hours. Now, this child who you need to transport is under critical condition and they need oxygen. And to give oxygen, you need an oxygen tank. You need someone who understands how to operate it. So a parent, a distressed parent, rushing the kid from one hospital to the other can't do it. So you need an ambulance. That ambulance has to be available. The care has to be available, etc. So what they found is that there's a very high percentage of deaths of children in transport. So their first product was, a small, oxygen machine for these children. Okay. So there's a question from Subbarao saying, today's vivid issue is the first occasion and situation which essentialize. Okay. So anyway, I'm sorry, I don't follow the question. Just maybe you should ask again and I'll see what I can do. So now the second, then they observed the things, and what they found is that when people are in ventilators, there's a lot of secretion and you need to catch that secretion. Otherwise, what we need to do is, they may swallow their own spit, and it's a lot of problems. So they came up with something called VAP care. So basically, it prevents secondary infection, and it also prevents healthcare workers from the infected secretants. So basically, when they are under a ventilator and they're secreting, when somebody wipes it, they could get infected. for example, in a case of a COVID patient or so. So this vac care is available now, and WHO has ordered a lot of their equipment to be used around the world. Okay, so now in the midst of COVID, we are trying to connect him to some state organizations, etc., to see if vac care could be used in any way. Now, this innovation has happened because he put two unusual things together: medicine, engineering, and the power of observation. And there's a lot of design work that goes into it. So Vimla Tala is saying that, the lockdown experience will impact and advance the way education sector will evolve. So absolutely, education also includes our own education, our own learning. So we'll be able to meet so many people, we'll be able to do so much just by sitting at home. So our learning doesn't have to stop. In fact, in a little while, I will tell you about what we are doing April 14th through 16th to bring learning to you in a very interesting way. Actually, something we are doing tomorrow evening also. So our second story is about another Ink fellow, Richa Singh. So she was going to IIT, and one of the hostel mates has committed suicide because she couldn't cope with the exams, or nobody knows the reason. And what Richa felt was that, my God, she had no one to talk to. And she died, and it could have been prevented. Who knows? I mean, should I have done something about it? Should someone have done something about it? She wasn't very sure. So she started a platform called Your Dost. So the idea is that it's anonymous support from medical professionals, psychologists, etc. for you. So it's an online platform. You can go, you can ask a question, it could be answered. And if you're more interested, you can schedule a one-on-one session with somebody where you can reveal your identity to that person, or you may choose not to. Or ultimately, you could have an in-person meeting if you choose so. But the point is, it takes away stigma out of going to counseling. So now imagine one of the things one of the doctors spoke about yesterday for healthcare workers who are working night and day, especially in critical care, where 60, 70, almost 80% of the people they treat are going to die. By the time things come to critical care, by the time they are on ventilators, it's extremely serious and the survival rate is very, very low. So at that point, how does that doctor feel? In what way are we taking care of the emotional stress of these doctors and healthcare workers? So who knows? This platform that Richa Singh has created, thinking it's going to help students, which ended up helping mostly professionals. Today, 60-70% of their inquiries are from people saying, I don't know how to deal with my boss, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to be better at my job, etc. Who knows, that platform may be of really great use to healthcare workers. So imagine, we talked about an engineer, who learned about medicine by observation and creating products that could be of use today. And now we talked about a student who decided to do a platform for other students, which ended up helping a lot of people in their career life, and who knows, maybe to healthcare workers today. And the final story is about somebody who's left her home country, America, came to India. She's one of the most acclaimed scientists. She's at a lab in India, Shannon Olson. She's also an Ink fellow. And what they have observed is that in the ocean, a lot of the sponges seem to survive microplastics. There are microplastics in the ocean which are killing a lot of sea life. But somehow the sponges are not being affected by it. That means there is some material within a sponge that can inhale microplastics. Now imagine if they can study these sponges and they can isolate that one, ingredient, we don't know what it is, that can inhale microplastics. and create a product out of it, we could have this placed all over the world to inhale microplastics. Now imagine if we can connect Shannon with a water purifying company and they fund the research so they can find the product that can inhale microplastics and they can create that product. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. Now, this is a very unusual thing of as somebody who's studying biology, a scientist studying sponges and then connecting it to a product and making a huge difference for the environment in this world. So the point of all these things is that each one of the stories that I told you have been very unusual people. We are what I was saying today is a high alert situation demanding a universal action and remedy. The world must unite. Yes, absolutely. So I think one of the things we are all doing is we are staying at home and we are connecting with each other using technology, and we are staying put, because the best help we can do is by staying put and keeping our minds occupied, because otherwise, we all can go crazy sitting at home. So my interest is in how do we keep bringing you opportunities to learn, just as you would if you had the opportunity to travel, if you had the opportunity to meet people from all over the world. So how can we bring you stories from all across the world, from across disciplines, from experts who can talk to you about everything from cultural heritage to financial stability to becoming great leaders, to understanding the future and how are we going to work, how are we going to play, how are we going to interact with each other. So we need to transform ourselves to go into this new world. Just as the 3 stories that I shared with you between Nitesh, Richa and Shannon had to reinvent themselves and transform themselves to be able to transform the world. So the word transformation is a very important word. So I want to share with you what we are going to be doing tomorrow as well as April 14th through 16th. There is a term called massive transformative purpose, MTP. The question is, for your company, for yourself, for your community, for your government, what is your MTP? What is your massive transformative purpose? What are you going to stand for? And this is not an easy journey. To say in 3 words or 5 words what your massive transformative purpose is takes hours and months of work, of introspection, of finding out. So a person who's an expert at this his name is Salim Ismail. He wrote a book called Exponential Organization. There's a university called Singularity University that was started in around 2008, 2009 in Silicon Valley when I used to live there. And I've known the birth of this university. And Salim was the person who was really the legs and hands and shoulders of this organization to get it off the ground. And he used to organize all these classes, interactive sessions. So I've known him since then. And so he himself has become an author since then, has become an authority on exponential organizations. So the idea is that we are getting into a world where things are changing exponentially. And what I mean by that is it's not linear. It's not 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. It's 1 to 10 to the power of 1 to 10 to the power of 2 to 10 to the power of 3. So you're going from 1 to 100 to 1,000 to etc. at an exponential pace. Now, when something like a pandemic comes, it's a super exponential pace. Even exponential is slow. So in 3 months, our lives have changed in ways we haven't believed. And if you pull yourself up and look at the world, in the last 15 years, all the social media that we are working on right now, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or whatever you're talking about, It is all been in about last 15 years, it all has happened. So can you imagine a world without Facebook or any social media or anything of that sort today? For a young person, it's unimaginable. And all this has happened, in my 16-year-old son's lifetime. So Salim wrote a book called Exponential Organization. He runs an organization called Exponential Organization. And he's actually going to be my guest tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. on a webinar. And if you see my post on Instagram, Lakshmi Pratury, you will see how to log into it. You need to register yourself for it, and we'll send you a link to where you can log in. This is an amazing opportunity to interact with somebody who has dedicated years of his life to research organizations about finding their own transformative performance. So the university in Silicon Valley is Singularity University that Salim was instrumental in starting, and now he's on his own. He runs something called Exponential Organization. So what we are doing, partnering with Salim, is something extremely interesting. As I was sharing with you, the world is going to change. We are all going to interact with each other digitally. This means that, can we create a global conference? Can we create thousands of people interacting with each other from the comfort of your living room? And that's what Salim and his team are putting together. April 14th through 16th, we are organizing a conference and EXO World, and it's going to be completely online. And of course, there's a registration fee and all that stuff. And we worked with Salim Ismail to give a massive discount to people in India. And it'll be published, it'll be all available on our website, and we'll be sending it to you. And tomorrow evening, we are doing a webinar with Salim Ismail where he'll go in detail about why he's doing this conference, what he's trying to accomplish. There's going to be more than 60,000 people at this conference on a global stage, but we are also creating smaller rooms where we can have more in-depth conversations. So we are hosting a session on India, and in what way can India stand on a global stage, teaching the rest of the world some things from here, and how can we learn from the rest of the world. So tomorrow we have a very, very busy day, and I hope you can join us. At 6 p.m., we'll be doing a webinar with Salim Ismail about exponential technologies, exponential organizations, and the massive transformation this world is going to go through, and how we become better leaders at home and at work. How do we deal better with it? We are going to be in a conversation with him in half an hour. Leading up to the conference, we are going to be doing April 14th through 16th. If you are interested in this conference, please write to EXOREG, EXOREG, at INKtalks.com. That is INKTALKS. This will be all on my post in Instagram. You can see it as well. And please write to us. We'll send you information. And take advantage of learnings like this. So what I said at the beginning when I started is that in this world, we have to reinvent ourselves, and we can't stop learning. Just because we can't travel to the rest of the world, because we can't meet people from the rest of the world, we can't meet experts, doesn't mean our learning stops. So we are creating this where the head of the UN General Assembly is going to be there. Someone like a Peter Diamandis, who wrote Abundance and many other things, who's one of the founders of Singularity University, he's going to be there. And Divya Chandar, who is an expert in medicine, she's going to be there. So there is at least 80 speakers from all over the world who are experts in different fields, who are going to be talking, and this will be available, for 3 days. So we are very excited to partner with this, because at INK, we are exponentially, learning about connecting with all of you online. Our existence for the last 10 years was about bringing people together, about creating live events. And now we are learning how to do it with each other, still with so much, intimacy and introspection and innovation and connectedness, and maybe even more, because digitally we can connect you to each other much more easily. So in a room, when you're with 1,000 people, you may meet 20 people, but digitally you can technically meet all 1,000 people. So there is a lot of positive thing. One of the people who joined us is Nirali Karthik, who's the head of, she and Nirali and Karthik are part of Mati Bani, which is an amazing music group, and they collaborate with musicians from all over the world without having to leave Mumbai. You should check out in Mati Bani some of their videos. It's absolutely spectacular how they connect with musicians from all over the world and create beautiful music by injecting India into the rest of the world and bringing the rest of the world into India. So all these young people, all our INK fellows, all the people we interact with are constantly teaching us every day on how we need to reinvent ourselves. They are not afraid of the new. I mean, Nirali is a classically trained Hindustani musician who loves to practice for 8 hours a day. And she's learning technology. She's learning how to connect with people all over the world to create better music. So there is so many examples of people reinventing ourselves. I mean, before I started Insta Live, 2 weeks ago, I didn't know how to be so active on Instagram. And the necessity pushed me into this, into learning to be with all of you. In the last few days, we've had every day, we started with 40 people coming to my show, to the highest being 10,000 people who came when Alicia was there. Today, we had another show with Tejasvi Surya where almost 7,000 people came. So it's just amazing for me in 30 minutes to connect to thousands of people and be able to communicate a message. That's the power of technology. That's the power of being pushed into a corner where you have to learn something. So my invitation to all of you is that we at INK are bringing so many things to you so you can learn. You don't need to feel stifled and stuck at home. Take the break, learn. A lot of them are free. So tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, Salim Ismail and I are going to be in conversation. And please join. It's a webinar and all the registration details are on my Instagram post. Please register and come join us. If you have any questions, write to exoreg@inktalks.com and we can send you more information. So I want to wrap up with a story. This is a story of a paraplegic, somebody who can't walk, who can't move, who's giving an amazing talk. He's so motivational. He's so fantastic. So at the end of it, somebody from the audience gets up and asks him, he says, "You are paraplegic. You can't walk. You can't talk. You can't do anything. I mean, of course, you can talk, sorry. You can't walk. You can't do so many things. How come you're so positive?" And the person looks at the person who asked the question and says, "Sir, here you are. You can walk, you can talk, you can see, you can hear. You have all your senses intact. And why are you so negative?" And that's what we need to remember, is that when we are faced with a situation, do we choose to prosper? Do we choose to perish? They are all choices. Can we make the most out of it? Can we stay positive despite the things being dealt our way? And we are bringing opportunities for you. Please join me tomorrow. We have 3 things. At 6 o'clock, we have Salim Ismail talking about exponential organizations. At 7 o'clock, for COVID related, we have Geetesh Agarwal. He's the Commissioner of Trade and Commerce from Queensland, talking about what's happening in other parts of the world. Finally, at 8 o'clock on this show, I have my dear friend, one of the most amazing artists and collectors and fashion, everything, Sangeeta Kathiwada, who's also a well-being expert. So please join us. See you at 6 p.m. tomorrow, 7 and 8. Bye-bye.